Hi, I'm Johannes and this is Lake Davos. Come with me on this winter walk through the snow around Davos, and we're going to discuss a few things that happened for me in 2024. I want to reflect on quitting alcohol, starting YouTube, and moving to a new city. If you're curious what that city is, continue watching to the end. Also, make sure to subscribe to my channel to stay updated with any developments coming in 2025. It's going to be a very exciting year, as we will discuss in this video. The first thing I want to discuss as we move into the shadow part of the lake, the sun is setting already, how I quit alcohol 1st of January in 2024 and the development that I had throughout the year. To begin with, I want to say that I did have a few drinks throughout the year, namely one weekend in April where I had 2 nights of drinking, and then throughout the year I had maybe a total of 4 or 5 sips of wine, very good red wine, which was part of my exception that if I come across a very, very good wine that is too good to say no to, that I will taste it for the taste, but not for the effect of getting drunk. So that being said, let me share how the year unfolded. So in January, I started this project more or less to see if I could do it. And I was drinking a lot before. You can watch my full video on exactly why I quit. But I was going into this pretty much as a trial project. And then the longer it went on, the more I realized how good it was for me and how much I didn't want to go back to the way it was before. But January, February was still very easy to stay off the alcohol. I was not going to a lot of events, no partying, so no temptation really. And then it was only by March, April where the temptations really rose. And that was also when it got the most difficult for me. So it took 2 months for me to understand how much of an effect it had. And so come March, I was like, okay, I'm really going to power through, because this feeling of needing a drink is not good, and this feeling of only being able to spend time with people if I have a drink in my hand is not a feeling that I want to have going forward. So I powered through the temptation with, as I said, this one weekend of exception. So in May, something amazing happened. And it's probably a little bit like we're going to see up ahead when we leave the shaded side of the lake and go on to the sunny side, because that's pretty much how I felt in May. I realized how much clarity I had in my head and how much I was being weighed down from this weekly drinking. It was really eye-opening to see like the fog lifting from the valley. But it's amazing that this took until May to really come into effect, because in the past I had quit alcohol for like 2 months or 3 months before. That was tough, but it was never that difficult. And I think part of that difficulty came because I didn't set myself a time limit. I wanted to see whether I could really live without it. Previously I said, let's do Lent, which is 6 weeks leading up to Easter, as a fasting period. Let's quit alcohol then, and then Easter I can drink again. And that was easy enough, because I had this goal that I wanted to reach, and then by Easter I was back to my old habits. Now I didn't have such a time limit, and I guess not having such a time limit meant that I had nothing to look forward to, so I had to face all the difficulties that come with not drinking. Now we're leaving the shady part of the lake side circle and we're getting to the sunny part. It is just a beautiful day out here in Davos, Switzerland. I wish you could be here and take in this view. That's amazing. Another thing that I noticed was that I gained my Sunday back. Sundays were usually dedicated to just trying to recover from the Saturday night, and now I was going for runs on Sundays. But even though I was pretty much over it and I saw the benefits, I saw what it was doing to me before, I saw how relieved I was now, it was still very difficult to stay on track and to resist the temptation to grab a drink, especially on a night out with friends. But funnily enough, one thing that I noticed was that the craving on a night out was not the biggest craving that I had. The biggest craving I actually got from thinking about recipes for drinks. So even though I was not drinking, my friends repeatedly asked me to mix drinks for them. For when they were hosting, I would come in as the barkeeper and mix drinks. And thinking about the preparation, obviously, mise en place c'est la force de la maison, I was thinking about the recipes. And that really, just me thinking about the alcohol that I would mix together was when I got the deepest cravings. And that was very interesting to me because it was easy to resist, but it was interesting to get that sensation. So up to a few months ago, maybe October, November, so 10, 11 months in, that's only when I stopped having these intense cravings. I still crave it from time to time, but it stopped being so intense and it stopped appearing when I was thinking about alcohol. So right now, as I'm talking to you and thinking about those moments and thinking about drinking, thinking about the drinks I would mix, I don't have these cravings anymore. Crazy that it took this long, no? What do you think? Do you have any experience with that? Feel free to share that in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So my friends now ask me, is this forever? When can we expect to have the old JG back? And I don't honestly know, because right now it feels great. I can't really imagine going back to the way I was living before. But on the other hand, never say never. Maybe I find a way to really control it, but I think it would only be the finest wines and only to taste and not to get drunk, not to get that first buzz, not to socialize, basically not for all the wrong reasons, but only for the right reasons. The second thing that I want to discuss is what happened in April of 2024. That's when I shot and uploaded my first YouTube video. And I was thinking a long time about this step. It wasn't something that was shot from the hip in terms of the decision of doing it, but in terms of the execution, it was definitely shot from the hip, and I didn't really know what to expect. This turned out to be an amazing project, and really a project that I didn't think would be so fun. In terms of the creativity that it unleashed, in terms of the thinking that I had to adopt, and in terms of all the benefits that came from it. Starting YouTube really unleashed my creative side, which I didn't expect at all. At least I didn't expect it to be so fun. Coming up with video ideas, thinking about strategy, and really integrating it into my weekly habits and thinking about how I can keep up with the goal that I set for myself to produce one video per week. Unsurprisingly, on the other hand, another characteristic of mine came to the surface, which is a love for gadgets and making sure that I learn a lot about the technical features about cameras, about the different gear that other people use. And so I very quickly, even though you can start a YouTube channel with your phone, I upgraded to a different camera, which allows me to separate the footage that I take from my photos and snapshots that I shoot with my phone, and I have that separate on my hard drives and on the Dropbox, and the iPhone photos are on the Apple Cloud in the Photos app. Otherwise it gets too confusing and I have too much B-roll and too many long form videos just sitting there, and I need to keep that separate. Obviously, being very keen about the different types of gear that you can have as a content creator, I have a whole wish list in my head already of what gear I want to get next. Up there for sure is another camera that is less vloggy and more cinematic. I think that I want to really get my cinematic game to a next level. So I'm going to need a camera that can do that. Also, I'm thinking about getting a new drone. I've used my brother's drone in a lot of the videos that you saw. It does make some excellent footage, but it's already a few years old, and the newer drones that are out there have improved technology. They don't crash as easily. I definitely have been a victim of many crashes. Obviously, I'm the victim here. And the technology has just evolved so much. My latest addition to the tech gadgets is the DJI Neo, which is this AI-powered autonomous drone. I can basically control it without any controller. I can just start it up in my palm, in the palm of my hand, and it will just take the footage that I set it to take. It can take different presets of motions and follow me around. It can go in front of me, flying backwards, which can be challenging, but as long as you're in an open environment, it works very well. It doesn't work so well if there are obstacles because it doesn't have any sensors, it just flies backwards. That has allowed me to really make some improved content as a solo creator and as a one-man show that I am. The biggest takeaway, however, that I have from starting this YouTube journey is the increased ability to speak freely. I mean, I'm still not perfect at it, but I have improved, I think, speaking to camera quite a bit, as you can tell as well. If you go back to the earlier videos, they are still very much insecure and a lot of cutting. I had to cut a lot because I'm stuttering so much. I mean, I'm still cutting a lot because I want you to have a fluid experience. I don't want you to click away because I'm speaking too slowly. As I'm saying these words now, you're gonna tell that I had to make quite a few cuts because I'm getting these mental blocks of speaking freely. I'm overly thinking about what I want to say, and that makes me speak slow. It makes me take long breaks. And this is something that I only realized when I was editing the footage, is that I make these very long breaks between my sentences and sometimes even between my words. And it's something that I still want to improve. As this crowd of people just walks by, I'm also realizing how I've become accustomed to vlogging in public. That is something that in the early days of the channel I was also very insecure about, especially in the lounge videos that I made. Obviously, it's not my goal to be one of those travel vloggers and make lounge content, but I really learned how to speak to the camera, even though people are watching me and being like, what is this guy doing? Often smiling in a bit of a negative way. But this is probably just me overthinking that, and it's all good because no one really cares what you do. So I'm sure nobody cares about what I do. That brings me to my last point, and that is how cool it is to have this platform where I can just rant on about topics that I find fascinating and sort of document what I'm doing for myself. I don't really care if someone watches this video or not. It will still be a great video for me to look back upon in, let's say, 1 year's time for my 2025 review, or even in like 5 or 10 years' time when I'm thinking about, oh, what was I thinking when I was 32? And maybe it helps someone, but if it doesn't, so be it. The last point I want to talk about is almost an announcement, because I've alluded to it in previous videos, but I haven't actually spoken about it. And that is that I have moved to Dubai in November 2024. And that has come as part of a bigger picture strategy that I took a long time to think about and figure out how I want to go about this. Turning back the clock, I completed the restructuring of my family business back in Germany, and that's where you're getting the forestry content. If you haven't seen that, I can only recommend you to check it out. Those were some of my more popular videos of me just sharing my knowledge about the forestry, but there was a lot more to that before I joined, and I had to, unfortunately, do some pretty heavy restructuring when I came into the business, and that led to me basically making myself redundant and getting rid of my own job, restructuring my own job out of the company. That also came as a blessing. I didn't want to just sit around and continue counting the trees. I don't have a forestry background myself. I'm very interested in this topic, but I don't have that kind of a background. So there's not much sense of me just staying there. From an entrepreneurial perspective as well, it was very difficult to get going with new projects. I tried that, and I also made a video about that. I don't recommend you watch it because I'm not in a very positive mood at that point, but maybe if you're interested in what goes wrong in Germany's bureaucratic system, you can take a look. But I'm trying to have a positive mindset on life, and so I want to be somewhere where there is progress. And so when I was done with that restructuring and I took care of what needed to be taken care of, I looked at a map of the world and I asked myself, where does one go early 30s with no family, no kids? So I just looked at the map of the world and put my ear to it to hear where's the music playing. And when I put my ear to Europe, I heard very little music playing in Europe as I see it right now. And maybe in Switzerland, which I took a closer look at, but I think that if you're young and you want a bit of an adventure, you ought to go a little bit further than Switzerland. It's a beautiful country and I like it very much. I like spending time here. I like hiking, mountain biking, skiing, and you can get all of that with some great productivity, some great people in Switzerland. But I wanted to venture a little bit further out, and so Dubai was on my list. And when I arrived, it just was like I landed in paradise. Everything was just made so easy for me when I came. I settled in very quickly. I spent a lot of time in different neighborhoods, just trying to get a sense of the city, trying to get a feel for where people live, how people live. The advantages of that city are just endless in my mind, at least for this exact period in life that I am in right now. It is far away from my home in Germany for it to be an adventure for me. However, the living standards and all the infrastructure and everything that you get there is in top shape, even you could argue better than in Europe. So there's no cutback in standard of living, although it is a little bit of an adventure. That makes it ideal for a longer term move. It's not an adventure to do for just 1 or 2 years. It's really for something a little bit longer. But at the same time, it's not too far away from Europe, which means that in a 6.5-hour flight, I can be back in Germany and take care of problems if they arise. Not that they should arise, because everything is running very smoothly and I have great people on the ground dealing with the day-to-day, and I can manage it from afar. But it's nice to have that comfort, and given the time zones, it's very easy to stay in touch with home, not just business, but also family, friends, and other connections. If I moved, let's say, to New Zealand, which also has a good infrastructure, it would be a lot more difficult to keep up with in terms of the time zones. Even New York is very difficult to fly back from New York for a weekend because of the jet lag that you get, even though the distance is quite comparable. At least London to New York is about the same as Munich to Dubai. But I'm sure as 2025 will progress, I will start making more videos, more content about Dubai and the perks of living there, the reasons why I moved there. I think this is just a good overview to reflect and give you some context of what will come next. So stay tuned for 2025. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching until now. I would really appreciate it if you could leave me a like and comment something. It doesn't have to be much, but it really brings me a lot of joy to hear from you, and I will respond to every comment, of course. I don't have a very big channel, so your comment lands in my inbox and I go to YouTube and comment back. So let's have a discussion. Tell me if there is anything that you don't understand or that you want me to double click on, and I'll be sure to get to that in one of my next videos. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel and support the growth. My next milestone is 1,000 subscribers. So let's see if I can do it in the next few months, and see you in the next one.